Hey Jackals! Today we'll take a look how to make a modern title that MG linked, and in this case, let's take a look. But this title is for Final Cut Pro, and I'll show you how to make it in DaVinci Resolve. So the bottom one is the original clip, and below you'll see the title that I've made. And at the end, as you saw, the title will also jump back. And this title is the fusion composition that I currently have, and at the end, the animation reverses. But before I start making the animation, let's dissect the clip, what we see. So I'll use IO, put this to loop, and use Alt and forward dash. We could make this as one macro, so it has a title and 3 bullet points, but that's not very intuitive, because if you only have 2 elements, you'd have to delete the second one, or make a bunch of macros that contains different number of bullet points. So what we'll do is we'll also separate the title and make just one element, so you can then add as many elements onto the timeline as you need. Now as for the animation, we can see this rectangle move out. It's rounded. It also has some shadow behind it, also here and inside the text, but I would have to zoom in to make that visible. Then this number animates from the center and rotates by 90 degrees. The numbers are thick and they cut into the top and into the bottom. And as for the top, the animation looks the same. When it comes to the rectangle, then this rectangle gets split in half and the text appears. So we'll do just that. So now to make it, we'll go into the media pool, right click, make a new fusion composition, give it a name if you want, and change the duration if you want. Maybe 10 seconds, make it, put it onto the timeline, select it, also have the playhead over it, and go into the fusion page. We'll first make the bullet points, so we'll use a rectangle and a background node, and I suggest you do all of this in the center so you don't move the actual positions, because we'll be adjusting the positions with the transform node at the end. So I'll adjust the height, maybe I can leave the width as is, or adjust it to 0.4, maybe something like this. Adjust the current radius by a tiny bit. We can now change the background color to what we want. So the animation, in this case we have to animate the height, or actually we have to animate only the width. Now in this case, if I go to down here, we can see the timeline frame rate, in my case is 24. So 24 frames is 1 second. And let's say the animation starts at frame 10 and ends in 1 second. So this will be my final position. And it goes like this. So we have the base animation. Now the animation is linear, and to fix it, we'll go to the spline. Have the show only selected tools enabled. Otherwise you'll see all of the tools. Select the width, zoom to fit, select all of the points, press S to smooth the animation out. It looks a little bit different, but we want to adjust it. So I'll simply drag the handles. Maybe something like that. I like the animation, so I can close the spline. Now we need to add the text. So add the text. I'll now connect it so that I can see it. Now I suggest you first type out all of the numbers and select a font that has the numbers in the same line. So OpenSense works, I guess. But you can also choose a font that has more of a blocky style. Let's go with Impact maybe. How does this one look? I'll use Impact, and now I can delete all of the numbers except for one. Then you'll want to change the size. Now in this case I was lucky because the size is actually uniform, because it has the same amount of spacing at the bottom and at the top, Otherwise, I would also have to go to the layout and adjust the Y position. But in this case, I only have to adjust the size. But now in the layout, I can adjust the center position. And what we have to do is to cut out this number from the rectangle. So this is transparent, just like the background. Now how I did that is I'll basically use this text as a mask, but I can't use it in the rectangle. So I'll use a background node, connect it to the merge, select the merge, use Ctrl T to switch between these two inputs. So now the background is black, and I'll lower the alpha to 0 so it's transparent again, and now I'll simply connect the text to the mask. And now select the merge node, go to the settings, and click apply mask inverted. And this is the result that we have. Now you'll simply be able to change the number to what you need, and you can also give it a name so you know what this is when you make a macro. So select the node F2, and now for the animation we'll add the transform node, and we'll animate the angle and the position. But in this case, as you can see, we have to put the layout back to the center so that the transform angle position actually does what we want. So it will start at angle 90, and maybe the animation will start at this point. So we can do it like this, and the size will be 0, and then at frame 30 the animation will end. So this will be 1, this will be 0, but now we also have to adjust the pivot point. So now let's adjust the final position, maybe 0.35. We'll also keyframe this will be the final position, and the starting position can be in the center, so 0.5. Let's see how this looks like. We can now also spice up the animation, so select the spline, select the transform node, and select all of the adjustments that you want to animate. You can also select them individually. So let's see what we have. Now we also need to add the text, what this will say. And this will be basically the same as here. So what I can do is close the spline, add the merge node, connect the background to this point, select the merge and flip the inputs so the background is at the back again. We will add the text, so I can use this one because it has the same font, and I'll use a new transform node and connect it as a mask. But before I connect it as a mask, I'll simply use the input like so. Change the text, so bullet point, change the size, maybe 0.05, and we can adjust the tracking, adjust the position. Now if you adjust the position here, with the text not selected, this actually uses the layout. As you can see, this is adjusting the center X position. Now we can simply connect the background to this and the transform to the merge, and in the merge we'll simply select apply mask inverted and multiply by mask. If only one option is selected, this doesn't work, so you need to select both of them. And now in the transform we can look how this animation looks like. So we see some text appearing at this point. So it's simply increasing in size. So maybe from this point on the text will start appearing. Now we could animate the size, but it doesn't have the same effect. So uncheck the use size and aspect, and we'll simply animate the Y size. And if need be, we could also animate the X size. So maybe this will be the starting position, and when the animation ends, at this point, this will go back to 1. And if you need to fix the animation, in this case I would maybe want the text to start appearing at this point. You can go to the keyframes, select the node, it's this one. So show only selected tools is enabled, otherwise you'll see all of the nodes as you just saw. Expand it, hold Ctrl and with the middle mouse button, scroll to zoom in, then unselect the tracks. This is selected. As you can see, it's a little bit faint, so unselect it. Select all of the points that you want to adjust and simply move them over. So the animation actually has to start at this point based on the Y size and X size values that I've used. Now I can close the keyframes. Now this is basically done for one bullet point. If you wanted to, you could now group this up, Ctrl G, make a bunch of copies, connect them like so. This is now a merge node, and in the merge node you would simply pull this down, then you'd have to go into the group, but when you have the macro, you would simply select all of the nodes that you want to adjust. So if you have a lot of nodes and a lot of adjustments to make, the macro would be a pain to make. So it's best if you just have one bullet point, because you only have this many nodes. And if you need to, you can also right click on the group to ungroup it. Now one thing that I haven't added yet is some shadow. I'll zoom in so that you can see it, and maybe I'll add another background and change this to white so that we'll be actually able to see the shadow. Now with this last merge selected, you don't have to select it, but if you do, the node will be connected automatically. Type in shadow, select drop shadow, and this is added automatically to the shape that we have. So now we'll make some adjustments. We'll adjust the drop distance, disable the blur, or just keep it very small, and you can also adjust the shadow strength. And now if I disable the last merge, let's see if the shadow is visible. It's kind of visible, so I'll just leave it connected like this at the moment. And now this is basically it. So this is what we would want to use the Ctrl G on. So this is group 1. Now I need to add the title, and the animation is basically the same as the rectangle. So what I'll do is select the rectangle and the background, copy it, and paste this here. Now I can close the group, and maybe I'll just disable the group for now, and I'll also disable the background because I want to actually change the color to white. So this is the animation. It's the same as before. Now I want to change the width, so I have to go to this keyframe, which has the maximum value, and I'll increase this value to 5, and maybe I'll adjust the height to 1.5. So we have this done. Now I have to mask it out, because if you remember how this mask looks like, you see that it gets cut off and then the text starts appearing. So to do that, I'll use another rectangle. It has the same width, this is okay, and we'll be animating the height. The height will go from 0 and to something like this, maybe 0.1. For now I'll just leave it something along these lines. I'll make this wider just so you see what happens. I'll connect this rectangle to this one. Now this can get a bit confusing, and there may be multiple options how you can achieve this. What I have done is select now the first rectangle, which is this one. I've selected invert, and then in the second one I also selected invert, but then in the paint mode I selected subtract. And this is what we want to get. So now basically the animation in the height will go from 0 to the value that we need. So now let's see the animation. Maybe this is the start of the animation, so keyframe the height, and the ending animation will be somewhere here, and 0.08 is the value that I want. Now if I want to adjust the animation, again select the node, spline, height, click zoom to fit, S to smooth the curve, and adjust the handles as you see fit. Now we need to add the text, so I'll open this group again, copy this text, and I actually have to rename it, so this will be bullet point. Now I'll copy it, close the group again, paste it, and now I'll rename it to title, and inside here I'll put your title here. I can simply connect it. We can now again adjust the tracking a little bit, maybe 1.2. If you wanted to, you could also go to the transform, select words, this is individual words, and you can adjust the spacing between the words as well, if that is something that you need. So maybe I'll use 2.5. If you had multiple lines, you could also adjust the spacing between the lines, and you can also adjust the spacing between the characters inside here. As you can see, the value is the same as it is here. Now for the animation, I'll also use a transform. So I'll again adjust the aspect size. I'll leave the X value as is, and I'll only animate the Y value and start making the text animation at this point, I believe. And put this to 1. Let's see how the animation looks like. If it's off, we can fix it in the keyframes. So I should put the text back and have it end at this point. Keyframes, select the title, or actually select the transform, Y size, and select just this keyframe, put it to this point. Looks okay. Now I've spiced it up a little bit. So somewhere in between, you can actually overshoot this. So let's see how 1.2 looks like. I think this is okay. And now the last thing that I'll add is, again, I'll copy it, the drop shadow, copy and connect. And if I now display this guy, but I have to change the color, but you can see the shadow. So now we don't need the background. I can simply delete it. I can make this as group 2. Now again, if you want to make just one macro, you would make a bunch of bullet points, connect them to the merge nodes, and make sure that this group is in the green input, because the merge node will then be adjusting this value. And you have to display it, obviously, and so on and so on. But when you make the macro, you then have to enable all of the options. So what options would you enable? In this case, you have the background color, which is blue. You would have this number 1 text and all of the options that you want to change inside there, and all of the options for this text. And maybe also the background color for the drop shadow. So you have at least 4 nodes that you need to change, and you have a lot of bullet points. That's a lot of nodes. So that's why I won't do this, but I will show you all of the options that you might want to enable. But before you do, let me just show you how you want to reverse this animation automatically when it comes to the end of the clip, so that you can actually adjust the duration of the clip, just as I have here, and the animation will automatically adjust, as you can see. So you'll want to use a time speed node. You'll want to use a dissolve node. Now if you make these individual compositions, this will connect to the dissolve, this will connect to the time machine, and this will connect like so, and this will go then to the media out. But in this case I have the merge, so these 2 inputs will go from this merge. In the time speed node, you will set the speed to -1. This will make it so that the animation goes into reverse order, which is correct. But now we don't have any animation at the beginning. And that is why we need the dissolve node, because it will automatically change the background and the foreground. Now as you can see, now we have the animation in the beginning and we don't at the end. But when we change this from background to foreground, we have now the animation at the end, but we don't at the beginning. So to fix this and make it switch automatically, we'll type here equals. You can also right click and select expression. You can also go to my website to get the expression. In this case, let's see which one we need. We need this one for dynamic transitions. We will select it, copy it, and paste it inside. So it's not what we want. You have 2 ways to fix this. You can switch the values here, 0 and 1, or you can select the dissolve and simply switch between these 2 inputs with Ctrl T. So now I have the animation in the beginning and you have the animation at the end. Now as for the macro, I'll simply ungroup all of these nodes because it will be easier to select. So now what do I want to change? I'll be changing the title. What do I want to change? I want to change the color of the rectangle. So I'll select this node first. Now I'll select the title and maybe the drop shadow if I want to change the color of it. This is important how you select the nodes, because when you make the macro, they will be listed in the order that you select them, just like the properties that you see here. And then in the bullet points, I'll also change the background. I have the number text, and then I have the bullet point text. And now I have to select all of the remaining nodes, and it doesn't matter how you select them, just make sure that they are selected. Now you might think that I messed it up because I've selected this drop shadow after selecting all of the other nodes, but that's okay because this drop shadow will be listed as the last property that I'll be adjusting. Now with all of the nodes selected, except the media out, right click on the last node in the composition, in this case it's the dissolve node, go to macro, make it. Now simply go over the nodes. As you can see, the background 1.1 is the node that I've selected first, which is this one. Inside here you'll want to go to the color, enable everything up to the gradient. If you also want to be able to adjust the solid color to be a gradient, and so you know what this is, change the text here where it says color to title background color. Otherwise it will just say color and you won't know which color this is. Then we have the title. In the title, if you don't know which options you have to enable, you can simply go to the text, select the title. So we have the text, this is styled text. We have the font, we have the font style, which is this. Then we have the color. Again, if you want to be able to change everything, select all of these nodes. We want to be able to change the size, maybe the tracking, line spacing if you want to have multiple lines. If you use the write on function, you can also animate this, but I won't be enabling that. In the transform, you can go to that, the transform. You can select this drop down, spacing, and that's it. So now you'll be able to adjust the spacing between the characters, the words, and the lines. Then we have the drop shadow. So the options that we have, and we can adjust, is the shadow strength, angle, drop distance, blur. But in this case, I just want to adjust the color. So I'll select all of this color, and I think I only have to change the name of this one, title shadow color. And also inside here, I can type in title text. Then we have background 1, which is this one. In the color, I'll again select all of the options and change this to bullet point background color. So I'll just shorten it for BG. With all of that selected, I can move on to the number input. Now in this case, I only just want to maybe change the text if I don't have it installed. So I would change the text and the style and nothing else. Then we have the bullet point, which is this text. In this text, I maybe want to able to change the font again, but this time I also want to change the size and the tracking. I can also use the line spacing here if I wanted to, but let me just change that in the transform and adjust this again, like that. And now I have a bunch of other nodes, as you can see. And then I have the drop shadow 1, which is down here. So if I enabled anything in all of these nodes, then this would also come up in between before the drop shadow when I make the macro. But because I only need this one, those options will not show up. So in the drop shadow, again, just change the color, bullet point shadow color, and also bullet point text. And this one, bullet point number text. Once you make all of the selections, go to File. If you use Save as Group, you will be able to come back and make any adjustments. If you use Save As, all of these nodes will be merged together and you won't be able to change anything. So I suggest you Save as Group, then go back to Fusion, Templates, Edit, Titles. Now give this title a name, modern title, bullet point, then save it. Once you close, you can go to the edit page, open the effects, and it's found, as you can see. we have the animation. Now if I put something in the back, like a solid background, and just change the color of it, you can see that this is actually transparent. Now if I made this as a separate title and a bullet point, I would simply add this macro multiple times. So I can do it like this, and let's see what we actually have. Now I didn't add anything to move this up. That's because you have the settings and you can simply adjust the position here. So maybe like this. Now for the second one, I can cheat a little bit. I'll adjust the position and put it like so. And I'll hide this title by going to the crop sections, and I'll crop from the top until it's gone, just like that. And I can come back and type in the number here. And you can do it like this as well, but it's a little bit wasteful because you hide the title and the animation, but it's still happening in the background. So that is why you should have this as separate title and a separate bullet point, and you just add as many bullet points as you want. So now we have the starting animation with the bullet points and the title and the ending animation. And if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification icon to know when my next video comes out. I'm Simon, and until next time, Jackals, keep it digital.